Most historical conquerors are eventually defeated by a superior army or a technological gap. Alexander the Great is the rare case of a ruler who was systematically dismantled by his own ambition. In just 10 years, he built an empire stretching from his home in Greece through the heart of Egypt, across the Persian world, and to the edges of India. Born in the city of Pella, he was the product of two powerful, competing influences. His father, Philip II, transformed Macedonia into a military powerhouse, while his mother, Olympias, raised him to believe he was a direct descendant of the legendary warrior Achilles. To prepare him for the throne, Philip hired Aristotle to serve as the boy's tutor. Under the great philosopher, Alexander studied science, politics, and literature, receiving an education designed to create a wise and balanced ruler. Aristotle provided the intellectual foundation, but Alexander had different priorities. He was driven by a singular, absolute desire for total global dominion. This combination of tactical genius, a mythological sense of destiny, and an elite education created a psychological foundation geared solely for expansion. He wasn't built to maintain a kingdom, he was built to consume one. When his father was assassinated in 336 BC, the 20-year-old king moved with breathtaking speed. He eliminated his rivals, secured the Macedonian throne, and marched south to crush every Greek city-state that dared to challenge his authority. In 334 BC, he crossed the Hellespont with 40,000 soldiers. He was leaving Europe to challenge the Persian Empire, the largest and richest power on earth. He led his men from the front, personally charging into the thickest part of the battle. This fearless leadership style inspired unmatched determination in his troops, even when they were heavily outnumbered. Every city that fell fueled his confidence. As his reputation spread, city after city began surrendering before he even arrived. To his men and his enemies alike, he appeared unstoppable. At Issus, he faced Persian King Darius III. Despite overwhelming numbers, Alexander identified a weakness and executed a high-speed strike. He personally led the cavalry directly toward Darius. Alexander's advance caused the Persian king to flee, triggering the total collapse of his forces. When the island fortress of Tyre refused to surrender, Alexander ordered his engineers to build a half-mile stone causeway through the sea. For 7 months, his army fought through impossible geography until the city finally fell. Overcoming these military and engineering obstacles had a profound effect on his mind. He began to believe that his own will was a force of nature, capable of bypassing any physical limit. In Egypt, he was welcomed as a liberator and crowned pharaoh. He founded Alexandria, which would soon become the global center of culture and science, leaving a permanent cultural mark on the ancient world. In 331 BC, he met Darius one final time at Gaugamela. His victory there was absolute, effectively ending the Persian Empire and making Alexander the undisputed ruler of the known world. He entered the Persian capital of Persepolis and made the controversial decision to burn the royal palace. Whether it was an act of revenge or a drunken error, it signaled a darker, more destructive phase of his leadership. Alexander could have returned home as the most successful conqueror in history. Instead, he pushed farther east into unfamiliar lands, crossing scorching deserts and towering mountains in search of more kingdoms to claim. His soldiers had spent years fighting without rest. As the empire expanded faster than it could be governed, supplies became scarce, and the army's long-standing loyalty began to turn into frustration. With the Persian threat gone, Alexander was left to contend with his own restlessness. He had successfully eliminated every external obstacle, yet he remained unable to stop. By the time they reached the Hyphasis River in India, the army had reached its limit. They had marched thousands of miles, survived brutal combat in every climate, and spent nearly a decade away from their homes. When Alexander ordered them to continue their journey east, his elite forces did something they had never done before. They refused to march. For the first time, his ambition hit a wall it couldn't break. Forced to turn back, he led a portion of his army across the deadly Gadrosian Desert. The lack of water and the burning heat of the sand claimed thousands of lives, making the retreat more lethal than the war itself. This final, punishing march showed the true cost of a leader who could not accept a boundary. His drive for glory had transitioned into a force of pure destruction. In 323 BC, Alexander arrived in Babylon. He was only 32 years old, yet his health was failing. After days of heavy drinking and a sudden high fever, he was no longer able to speak. His generals gathered and asked who should inherit his massive empire. His final answer was 3 words: to the strongest. This refusal triggered brutal civil wars. His generals fought for power, which instantly tore his life's work apart into rival kingdoms. His political empire didn't survive him, but his cultural influence was permanent. The cities he founded and the spread of Greek ideas shaped the development of civilizations across Asia and Egypt for centuries. Alexander spent his life winning a world he had no plan to lead. He left behind a map that was won in a decade and shattered in a day. Ultimately, his story is a reminder that the strength required to seize power is entirely different from the wisdom required to sustain it.